The sun beat down on the dry Nevada dust like it was angry at the earth. My boots crunched over gravel as I walked toward the front door of my ranch office, a wide, steel and glass structure that sat right in the middle of 62 acres of land I owned outright, not leased, not rented, not under any HOA. My land, my buildings, my rules. But someone else didn't get that memo. Her name was Carol. She was the self-declared president of the Brookridge Homeowners Association, an HOA for a nearby community 2 miles down the road, not even within my property lines. She'd harassed me before, but this morning, she crossed a line that would change everything. I spotted her striding down the gravel, holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. Behind her, a skinny guy in a pastel polo fumbled with his phone, clearly filming. My gate hadn't even been open. She'd walked around it. Trespassed. Excuse me, she barked, heels sinking into the dirt. You can't operate a commercial business here. This is HOA governed land. I blinked. You're on private property, Carol, and you know it. This land falls under Brookridge territory, she hissed, waving her clipboard. I've already documented 6 violations that sign illegal. Those trailers, non-compliant, and this office, unauthorized structure. You're in violation of absolutely nothing. I finished for her, holding up a thick folder. Here's the deed. The zoning clearance, county map, title search. I own the land. I own the complex. Every single foot of it. Her eyes darted over the paperwork, ignoring it like it was radioactive. She snatched her phone and dialed. 911. Yes, we have a situation. There's a trespasser operating illegally out of a structure, armed, possibly dangerous. She glared at me, voice shaking for drama. We need law enforcement immediately. He's refusing to comply with HOA directives. That last line, it told me everything. This wasn't about legality. It was about control. A fake queen screaming at a king on his throne, hoping the guards would show up before someone questioned her crown. The deputy arrived within minutes. Fast, too fast, my guess. Carol had called before, made me out to be a threat. I stood my ground as the cruiser pulled into the dirt, lights flashing. A young sheriff's deputy stepped out, right hand hovering over his holster. Sir, step away from the structure. Deputy, I said calmly, this is my land. I've got the paperwork right here. I handed over the folder. The kid looked nervous, flipped it open. Few steps back, toward his vehicle. Carol marched forward like she owned the badge too. This man is a threat to our community. This whole building is an illegal commercial operation. This isn't part of Brookridge, the deputy said, his voice unsure. Are you certain this lands under HOA? Carol didn't blink. It's within 500 feet. That makes it enforceable. No, it doesn't, I said. It's 2 miles out. Entirely different parcel. County-issued permits. And if you look up GIS mapping, I'm not even remotely under Brookridge jurisdiction. He's lying, she snapped. You need to shut this place down immediately, ma'am, the deputy said. I can't shut down anything. This paperwork looks legit. And he paused, then looked behind me. A deep rumble shook the air. That's when things went from stupid to surreal. A matte black SUV pulled up fast. No tags, no lights. But I recognized the emblem, the winged cobra. Black Cobra Tactical. Private security I hired 3 months ago. After repeated threats from squatters and local cartel traffic. Not a government group. Ex-military. No nonsense. One door opened and out stepped Elijah Cross, 6'4". Black fatigues, radio in one ear, sidearm on his hip, arms like tree trunks. The guy didn't walk, he moved, like he was scanning a battlefield, even on casual Fridays. Everyone froze, even Carol, especially the deputy. "Problem?" Cross asked, his voice low and even. I handed him the citation Carol had just slapped on my window. "We've got someone claiming jurisdiction." Cross looked at it once, tore it in half. "Not worth the paper it's printed on." Carol sputtered. "You can't do that. That's a legal document." "You just trespassed," Cross said, stepping closer, "and filed a false report to 911. That's a felony." She backed up. "You're threatening me now." "Not a threat," he replied, "just facts." The deputy held up his hand. "Okay, everyone, let's calm down. I need to make some calls." Carol was already dialing again. This time her tone was different. No authority, just panic. "Get Martin on the phone. Tell him they brought private security. No, like real guys, tactical. Call the board now." What followed over the next 24 hours turned my ranch into the center of a legal, political, and social explosion. What started as an HOA citation escalated into something way deeper. City officials, land use attorneys, undercover agents, even news vans. But let's rewind just a little. Back to that morning, right after Cross arrived. He motioned me toward the SUV. "We need to talk." Inside the vehicle, I saw a tablet already lit up with satellite imagery. My property, drones overhead, and 2 circles drawn around it. "That's Brookridge jurisdiction." Cross pointed to the first circle. "Here's your land. And here," he zoomed out. "This isn't just about Carol. Someone else is using the HOA to mask something bigger." I frowned. "Like what?" "Land grab, possibly laundering. They've been trying to absorb parcels through false claims. You're not the first. But I own everything here. The title's clean. That's what makes you a threat." I stepped out of the SUV, head spinning. Outside, Carol was already gone, vanished like smoke. The deputy handed me back my folder. "You're good," he muttered, "but you might want to get a lawyer. HOA board's been causing trouble all month." "I've got one," I replied. "I've also got Cross." The deputy nodded once and left. Cross didn't. He just stood there, eyes on the road. "They'll be back," he said, "and next time it won't just be citations." I looked around at the land I'd spent. A decade building. Offices, barns, livestock enclosures, solar fields. "Let them come," I said. But I didn't know yet. They already had. And what was coming next would shake the county to its core. I barely had time to walk back to the ranch office when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then another. Then 3 in a row. All different. By the time I hit the steps, a black SUV I didn't recognize was already parked at the gate. 2 men in suits stepped out. No smiles, no nods, just briefcases and tension. One flashed a badge, County Code Enforcement. The other, Legal Counsel, according to his lanyard. I hadn't even taken a sip of coffee, and the heat wasn't just coming from the sun anymore. "Mr. Collins," the lawyer asked, voice flat. "We're here on behalf of the Brookridge Homeowners Association." "Already handled," I said. Deputy cleared everything. "You're trespassing. We have an injunction," he handed over a thin stack of papers. Cross stepped behind me without a word, just stood there like a shadow. The lawyer's hand trembled slightly. Cross didn't say anything. He didn't have to. I flipped through the papers. This says I'm operating an illegal business within a residential zone district. I'm zoned for mixed use. I've got agricultural, commercial, and renewable energy designations on file with the county. You're looking at bad data. Our concern, the lawyer said carefully, is that this property is currently being used to host private security operations, storage of controlled materials, and other uses not listed in the original development plan. You're referring to the security hired after multiple criminal trespasses from people inside Brookridge, I shot back, which I documented every single time. We need access to inspect the premises, he said. Cross moved forward, slightly, not without a court order. We have administrative authority under the HOA charter. This isn't HOA land, I growled. You have no jurisdiction here, none. We'll be back, the lawyer said, trying to maintain composure. And when we return, it'll be with more than paper. Cross leaned down slightly. You bring paper, we bring facts, not a threat. But it didn't have to be. I turned to Cross. That felt off. It is, he replied. Let's run some scans. Over the next hour, Cross's team, 3 ex-special forces, now private contractors, deployed silent surveillance. Drones over my property. Not for defense, for tracking. Within 20 minutes, 2 individuals crouched, watching. Cross didn't alert them, didn't even approach. Let them watch, he said. We're documenting everything now. I didn't understand what made my property such a hot target until Cross sat me down in the office and opened his laptop. You're not just sitting on ranch land, Tyler. This whole complex, the soil, the underground, water access, the solar farm, it's worth 10 times what it was last year. You're on a critical corridor. For what? Energy, access, logistics. Someone wants to turn this land into a control hub for more than just cattle. That's when it clicked. The HOA wasn't a homeowner group anymore. It had morphed into a front, a tool being used by people trying to quietly absorb land through intimidation, legal manipulation, and manufactured violations. They've done this before, Cross continued. California, Texas. Get infiltrated by groups who use technicalities to pressure people off their land, or file enough fake complaints that owners cave under legal costs. But I'm not selling, I said. Exactly why they're panicking. Later that night, the gate camera caught headlights again. This time, 3 cars, all civilian. A woman with a megaphone stepped out, followed by about a dozen others. Picket signs, clipboards, matching t-shirts. Shut it down, one yelled. Illegally built, another shouted. The group began chanting. Cross's team remained out of sight. I stood on the porch, floodlight overhead, arms crossed. Private land, I yelled. You're trespassing. A man stepped forward. Older, broad shoulders, eyes cold. We're here under Civil Rights Code 315. You can't block us from inspecting this land for public interest violations. There's no such code, I said, and this is private property. Step back. We'll be back with the sheriff, he snapped. The real one, not some kid in a cruiser. They left, but it wasn't over. By morning, I was served. Not a legal notice, a lawsuit, filed by Brookridge HOA for failure to comply with community visual standards, obstruction of inspection, and threat to neighborhood cohesion. Pure fiction. But now it was on paper. Now it was court. I sat in my office, cross-pacing. "They want you tied up in court for a year," he said, "so they can bleed you dry. I've got the documents. I've got the proof. Doesn't matter. They're playing dirty. You need to fight fire with strategy, not just truth." He wasn't wrong. Truth didn't matter if no one listened. So we built a case, every document, every drone clip. But the biggest blow came the next night. 2:37 a.m., two masked men cut the gate and slipped into the equipment shed. But what they didn't know, we'd rigged a silent alarm. Cross and I rolled up fast in the side-by-side, caught them in the act, pulling fuel lines, marking things. With UV paint, sabotage, hands where I can see them. Cross roared, the two bolted. One escaped, the other tackled face first into the gravel. By the time sheriff deputies arrived, he was zip-tied to a fence post. And guess what? He had a Brookridge HOA staff badge in his wallet. The sheriff took photos, logged everything, promised to investigate. But his face said what I already knew: the guy wouldn't talk. And Carol, still silent, until the following afternoon, when her silver sedan screeched up to the office and she screamed, "You don't know what you're messing with." "You're right," I replied, "but I'm learning fast." But not before Cross caught a photo of her passenger, the same lawyer from earlier. Not HOA, a known name in property asset seizure. This was no longer about an office or a citation. This was war, land, power, and behind the fake complaints and HOA fines was something a lot darker, something big. And next, we'd find out exactly how deep this went. 3 days passed. No sirens, no flash mobs, no legal notices. It was the quiet before a warrant. It wasn't peace, it was prep. Cross knew it. I felt it. The ranch sat still like a battlefield, waiting for its first gunshot. Our security footage showed less than usual, too clean, too careful. Cross had increased patrols, encrypted every communication, and even switched out our drone frequencies. But something still felt wrong. Then, on a crisp morning that started like any other, the first real crack appeared, not outside, but within. "Hey, where's Torres?" I asked, referring to one of Cross's top guys, ex-Delta Force. Sharp, disciplined, always early, always reporting, didn't check in, Cross replied. Said he had to run back into town for supplies. Alone. Cross nodded once. He insisted. Said it was urgent. We both knew it wasn't protocol. These guys didn't move solo. Not on a job like this. Cross tapped on his tablet, flipping through footage of the past 24 hours. No sign of Torres after midnight. Just gone. He wasn't answering his comms either. Not a dead signal. Manually turned off. That wasn't just unusual. That was intentional. By noon, we got our answer. A manila envelope slid under the office door. No address, no note, just a flash drive. Cross scanned it first for malware, then opened it. The video started with static, then showed night vision footage. Inside our ranch office, someone copying files, blueprints, permit scans, my personal documents, and at the center of it all, Torres, clear as day, back turned to the camera, his arm tattoo military, crest visible under the sleeve. There was no denying it. But why? I asked. Money, more than that. Cross stood, jaw tight. Torres isn't just feeding them intel. He gave them a map, a timeline. Timeline for what? I asked. dread crawling up my spine. Cross didn't answer right away. He just tapped on the screen again. A calendar popped up, highlighted in red, this Saturday, just 3 days away. Maybe. A full seizure attempt, fake warrant, full press. They'll try to force you off the land while tying you up in court. Paper and boots. I sat down hard. How do we stop it? He was calculating. We don't just stop it, we flip it. Over the next 48 hours, we set up a trap knot with guns, not with guards, but with evidence. We created a decoy server room inside one of the barns, filled with fake permit violations, communication logs, and digital blueprints suggesting we'd violated several state-level water management codes. Cross even built a dummy email thread where I confessed to manipulating permit records. Bait, all of it. Then we sat back and waited until 2:47 a.m. Friday night. The breach started quiet, a rustle, then shadows. 2 figures. One was Torres, the other we didn't know. But the way they moved fast, direct, they weren't guessing. They were following coordinates. They hit the barn, bypassed the first 2 locks like they had the combination. Inside, we watched via hidden cameras. They were copying everything, downloading, filming. Then the stranger pulled off his mask. It was Martin Greeley, the head of Brookridge's so-called enforcement committee. A guy who once claimed to be just a community volunteer, but now had access to a full tactical layout of my property. He turned to Torres. This is perfect. By Monday, we'll have a court order so big he'll be selling that land at auction. We need to move sooner, Torres replied. There's talk he's planning to go public. Doesn't matter, Greeley said. By the time he does, it'll be his word against ours. And we've got friends in the recorder's office. That was enough. Cross gave the signal. Boom. Barn doors slammed shut. Floodlights on. Lockdown activated. I walked in with Cross. Behind me. Enjoy your last night of freedom, gentlemen. Greeley froze. Torres reached for his sidearm, but froze when he saw 5 red laser dots on his chest. Cross's team had them both pinned. We've got your entire conversation, Cross said. Every word, every click. Greeley stammered. This is entrapment. No, Cross corrected him. It's counterintelligence. And you walked right into it. We called the sheriff. This time, it wasn't the young deputy. It was Sheriff Haywood himself. Old school, tough. No time for HOA politics. He reviewed the footage, the evidence, the confessions. Damn, he muttered. They were trying to manufacture a fraud case against you. With help from inside, I said, nodding to Torres. That's a federal offense, too, actually, Haywood said. Property tampering and evidence manufacturing. You gonna arrest him? I asked. Both of them, the sheriff replied. And I'll be launching an investigation into Brookridge's entire board. That night, news spread fast. Cameras showed up at dawn, local reporters, regional stations, even a national blog. Suddenly, my ranch wasn't just a ranch anymore. It was a symbol of overreach, corruption, and the fight to own your land. HOA reps tried to spin the story, called it a misunderstanding, but footage doesn't lie. And once the public saw how far they'd gone to fabricate crimes, the court of opinion slammed shut in our favor. But the battle wasn't over that Saturday. The HOA still tried to show up with a formal audit committee. They arrived in a black van with clipboards and matching jackets, quoting obscure bylaws. This land must be surrendered for inspection under HOA clause for to see. Clause for 2C, I laughed. You mean the one tied to shared sidewalks and fence uniformity? This is raw land, you lunatic. I handed them a copy of the sheriff's cease and desist order, stamped and signed. You show up here again, and you're not leaving in a van. You're leaving in a cruiser. The van turned around, slowly, but I knew it wasn't over. These people, they didn't stop when they lost. They regrouped, retooled, retaliated. That's when Cross gave me the news. We traced the funding behind their lawsuit, he said. And I asked. He handed me a folder. Inside, bank records, corporate accounts. One signature caught my eye. R.V. Kramer. Who's that? I asked. Developer. Owns over 40% of Brookridge through proxy LLCs. Has been buying land through forced settlement for 5 years. And that's when the full picture clicked. The HOA was just a tool. Kramer was the hand holding it, and he wasn't done. Not even close. Cross looked me dead in the eye. He's coming next. Let him, I said. I've got enough firepower to hold this place for a year. Cross shook his head. Not that kind of firepower. He's coming with courts, zoning board, EPA inspections, maybe even IRS flags. So we fight, I said. Cross nodded. But this time, we don't just defend, we expose. Not with a standoff, but a declaration. This land, mine. And now, we were going to prove it to every courtroom, camera, and crook in the state. Days after Torres and Greeley were arrested, the wind changed. Not literally. The air still smelled like hay and hot sun, and the land was quiet. But there was a shift in how it felt. The calm wasn't safety. It was planning. Across the state line, in a mirrored glass office tower, R.V. Kramer was watching everything. Not through the news, not through lawyers, through contracts, legal strings, influence. This wasn't some HOA grudge anymore. It was a multi-million-dollar land acquisition war, and my ranch was the last piece standing in his way. Cross said it plainly. He's coming, and he's not bringing flyers or surveys. He's bringing lawsuits, injunctions, and auditors with federal badges. At 6:13 a.m. the next morning, we heard the low rumble. Not vehicles, helicopters, 2 of them, black, unmarked. They circled once over the ranch, office, and then veered off toward the solar fields. 5 minutes later, 2 SUVs rolled up, county plates. Then a third, no logos. Out stepped 5 people in windbreakers, blue, green, white emblems. EPA, state zoning, agriculture division, the whole alphabet. We're here under authority of multi-agency compliance review, the lead man said. We have jurisdiction to inspect the premises based on a petition filed citing environmental damage, improper zoning declarations, and undisclosed chemical storage. Let me guess, I said. Filed by the Brookridge HOA. No, he said. Filed by 3 Palms Holdings, LLC. Cross was already typing. Shell Corp. Registered to a law firm in Austin. And guess who funds it? He flipped the tablet toward me. R.V. Kramer. They moved through the property like sharks, taking samples, recording structures, even photographing my livestock pens. But they didn't know something. Cross had already installed full body cams on every major post, recorded every conversation, documented every move, and most importantly, we had permits for everything, right down to the irrigation flow sensors. You boys hungry? I asked the agents as they wrapped up. Because you just ate 5 hours of footage that shows nothing but legal compliance. You're wasting taxpayer dollars. If your papers check out, the lead said, this won't go any further. They don't just check out, Cross added. They're certified, sealed, and counterfiled with 2 separate agencies. Want copies? We already emailed them to your superiors. One of the agents looked at the others, paused, then leaned in slightly. Off record. We've been pushed into 5 of these in the last 6 weeks. All small landowners, all tied to HOA complaints or corporate LLCs. I know what's going on. Then do something, I said, because they'll be back. Maybe not, he whispered. I'll forward this up the chain. You didn't hear it from me. That night, Cross and I sat in the barn office, going over satellite maps. Every property around mine, all slowly being bought up, some at gunpoint, some with lawsuits, others from sheer exhaustion. Only my ranch stood in the way of Kramer turning this entire zone into a corporate logistics park. Hundreds of acres of warehouses, roads, data farms. That's what this was all about. Not an HOA, not a noise complaint. Control. Kramer didn't just want to own the land. He wanted to erase the idea that anyone could own their dirt anymore. At 1:42 a.m., it happened. Again, silent alarm. Fence breach, east quadrant. Cross and I were out the door in seconds. Engines off, 3 figures in the distance. Not vandals. Too quiet, too calculated. One carried a duffel, the other a long black case. Military issue, Cross said. Scoped surveillance. What are they doing? Either mapping us or planting something they'll claim is illegal. We moved fast. No guns, just evidence. Infrared footage. Auto-tracking cameras. As we got closer, they split. One ran north, another east. The third got tangled in a wire fence. Cross tackled him. Who sent you? The guy didn't answer. Not until I pulled his wallet. Contractor ID, emblem of Kramer Global Security. It was official. This wasn't HOA games anymore. This was a private military operation on U.S. soil, on my soil. The sheriff showed up, took him in. Again, no questions. This time, the district attorney got involved. And when they saw the video evidence of a private security unit operating without local coordination, they launched a full investigation. But Kramer was one step ahead. By the next morning, he'd filed a civil injunction claiming I'd violated state-level contracts by interfering with a recognized corporate land audit. It was nonsense, but the court didn't toss it. They fast-tracked it. I had 7 days to appear. I sat in court with Cross beside me. Opposing counsel rolled in with 6 lawyers. All smiles, all smug. Mr. Collins, the lead attorney, began. You have aggressively blocked lawful assessments, defamed homeowners associations, and have taken extreme measures that threaten the peaceful enjoyment of the surrounding community. I didn't smile. I just played the drone footage on the courtroom screen, showed Greeley, showed Torres, showed the KGS contractor on my land, then showed the helicopter footage matched against Kramer's own registered fleet in Kansas. The room went silent. Judge Walters leaned forward. And you have all this documented. Every second, Your Honor, filed with timestamps and matching federal registration data. Yes, ma'am. Already submitted in evidence. Then I'm dismissing this. She slammed the gavel. And I'm recommending the State Bar review this entire case for abuse of the legal system. Kramer's lead lawyer looked like he swallowed a nail, but Cross wasn't done. Permission to address the court, he said. The judge nodded. I've been working for over a decade documenting illegal land grabs disguised as civil code enforcement. I can show you 5 other cases just like this: small ranchers, homeowners, families being dragged through litigation until they lose everything. Then I want to see that, the judge replied. All of it. And just like that, we flipped the script. That night, Cross filed a report to national media outlets. Corporate takeovers masquerading as HOAs. The war on landowners. The story exploded. By morning, I had 2 networks calling, my mailbox flooded. Not with hate, with support. Farmers from Texas, retirees from Arizona, veterans from Colorado. All of them saying the same thing. They tried to do it to us, too. And now they saw us fight back and win. R.V. Kramer went dark. No comments, no public appearances. But then something beautiful happened. His shell companies audited his private security firm. License revoked. One by one, the towers started to fall. It wasn't fast, and it wasn't clean, but the message rang out. You don't own the land just because you have lawyers. We own the dirt. We built it. We bled on it. We die on it. 6 months later, the Brookridge HOA quietly dissolved. Carol fined, disbarred from community leadership, her house for sale. I didn't buy it. I didn't need it. I had something better, my land, my peace, and a full file of proof that no matter how slick the suit or deep the pocket, you don't beat real people with papers and helicopters. You beat them with truth, with cameras, with guts. And if anyone out there's facing the same fight, if you get a bogus fine or an inspection demand, or you see men with clipboards quoting made-up bylaws, don't just roll over. Stand, document, fight. Because if they can take mine, they'll come for yours next. But if we all stand together, they can't take a damn inch.